very idea that Zovaal is basically behind the actions of everything, and when I say everything, I mean literally the actions of everything since vanilla. Actually, he's behind all of the things that happened since Warcraft 2, really.
The jailer is a very bad last minute idea that I don't know why they even
Right? The very idea of that is laughable, because there's a lot of lore and situations that fall completely flat and completely destroy itself if that's the truth. You know, a lot of things have to be retconned or very, very clearly explained, because
it was a bad retcon. It was like, do you know, like these children's like labyrinths, like when you have like 3 or 4 options, and when you have the goal, the jailer was like starting from the goal and basically trying to find your way back to one of the roads so that you kind of cheat your way back. And they put him in as the goal, and then they tried to like tie it to like some of the previous events that had nothing to do with him.
they don't make a lot of sense if Zovaal was in fact behind all of those things, right? So that's sort of the first big problem. Then you have a massive problem with Kalthazad. I'll give you guys a couple of examples here. Noble actually made me aware of this. I completely forgot about it. Kalthazad's story in Shadowlands was as if Blizzard completely ignored the story of
Kel'Thuzad, for those of you who only played Final Fantasy XIV, is kind of equivalent to Xenos in a way that he keeps like showing up throughout the story, and like you're forced to fight him like over and over again, and he shows up in like random, you know, instances and what, well, not random, but like there are plenty of Kel'Thuzads at this point that you can be fighting, and this is so aggravating.
In the past, right? Kalthazad actually, right at the end, changed his mind. And then in Shadowlands, he's like, yeah, it was always part of the jailer, right? I was always a friend of the jailer. I think, no, you weren't.
Nope.
There's actual evidence of you changing your mind, right? There's actual evidence that you weren't as convinced towards the end. Mal'Ganis is another character that in Icecrown Citadel, Mal'Ganis turned against the jailer. And now it's like, oh, apparently not. Don't worry about it, right? Well, actually, he turned against the Lich King, but, you know, you get the gist of it, right? Mal'Ganis wasn't always on the side of the jailer, and apparently he was. You know, these are lore stories that isn't explained. I don't think Blizzard is going to explain them. They don't make much sense. The whole story of Sylvanas becomes extremely difficult to follow if indeed Zovaal was behind everything, right?
I just hate how at the beginning of Shadowlands they said that they wouldn't sell these characters cheap. Like Lich King, Sylvanas, or whatever, and selling them cheap is exactly what they did. It's so hurtful.
Of Sylvanas becomes very difficult to sort of marry with what we have right now. I think for the most part, this Zovaal storyline falls completely flat because they made Zovaal the ultimate enemy, right? They sort of went back and inserted him into every part of the history of World of Warcraft, whether he made sense to be there or not. Right? Because there's a bunch of stuff in World of Warcraft where the jailer doesn't make a lot of sense. But
it's like, do you know these movies where, like, there's like very advanced technology, and where people will get inserted someone into, people will get like inserted into someone else's memory, artificially. Like they will just like basically put them in different places where they normally don't belong to, but like after the procedure, that person will like start remembering them and thinking that they were a part of it, whereas they were not. That's pretty much what they try to do with the audience, but we know he wasn't a part of it. It's dumb.
But according to them, he is 100% behind those things. Right? So when you really start to dive into the world of World of Warcraft in that regard, you start to realize that something is going on here that isn't gonna be easily fixed. Very specifically, Steve the Newser will never fix this. Let me be clear. To everyone that may not know exactly where I stand, and you're welcome to have a difference of opinion here, I believe that Steve Denuser should be fired from Blizzard tomorrow. I believe
True.
that Steve Denuser is a plague on the video game that we call World of Warcraft. I think Steve Denuser is just one of the worst writers I've ever seen in my entire life, especially with a game that
He ruined Sylvanas. Like, with all the love that he's had for her, he's just completely ruined it.
is supposed to be about story. You know, one of the things that at least got me very much in love with World of Warcraft has been the story. I fell in love with World of Warcraft's story in Warcraft 2, you know? And it's always been a love affair
So
for me with
sad.
the story, through thick and thin, through bad expansions and good. I've always stuck around because of the story. Even BFA, you know, there was a time in BFA where I got really pissed off and I really hated the game because it played shit. But then I came back because I really missed the story. The problem is that I've been holding on since BFA, waiting for the story to actually start to make sense, to actually fit somewhere. And now in Shadowlands,
I hate these promises to players where they're gonna be like, oh, this story is gonna make sense in like 10 years or whatever. And sometimes they say that. Like, they say that openly. Like, oh yeah, this may not make sense now, but you'll see. In a few years, in a few expansions, this will all become clear. It's like they treat their players like they're 1,000 years old and like they're gonna live for another 1,000. It's just so dumb. Like, who guarantees you that that person's gonna be there sticking around? You have to give them something now.
it feels even more broken than what it did in BFA. You know, at least in BFA, some of the story was cohesive and coherent and sort of tracked with the history and lore of World of Warcraft. Now, in Shadowlands, we have retcon upon retcon. Some things they don't even have the respect to retcon it. They're just sort of pretending, right? They're just going, fuck it. We just won't tell them. Let me ask you guys this. What's the deal between Helia and Sylvanas? Anyone in chat? I'll take by the silence, no one has a fucking clue.
No.
Me neither. I don't know. I can't tell you. There's so many parts of this story which I when I go back and I think about it, that doesn't make sense. I don't understand why I'm here. You know, the Primus is supposed to be this master strategist.
Dude, it's about, like, I learned a very important lesson recently, and that's the lesson of self-respect. Like, if you have any sort of self-respect for you and your money whatsoever, you're not gonna sit there waiting for something to get better in the next, like, 2 or 3 years. You're gonna leave.
Yet according to them, he's never lost a battle. He's lost 2 now already against the jailer, right? He got caught by the jailer, and then the jailer fucked him up inside inside Torghast. So that's 2 battles that he's already lost, right? He clearly doesn't. He's not that good. He's the guy who invented domination magic, yet he can't break us free from domination magic. Only Anduin can do that for some reason. Then, of course, we get
don't
this
know.
amazing promise from Blizzard Entertainment, and this is massive spoilers, so if you didn't want spoilers, now's not the time to keep watching. We were promised that Blizzard was going to bring, if they were going to bring back Arthas, it was going to be in a major way. It was going to be, they would have to be careful with how they bring him back because they know how important he is to the story.
It's like, now these people who are like, I don't know, 30 years old or whatever, like, they remember their pretty much their high school days and their like early 20s or whatever as the most glorious days of raiding in the Icecrown Citadel. And like, if they dare ruin that, man, you know, like, you're not only ruining the present, but you're also ruining the past for all these people. Like, what the hell?
Arthas is a blade. Now, I mean, I did call it, right? But I don't know if you can say that is respectful.
No.
And in keeping with the importance of the character, right? When Arthas is the fucking blade. Right, he's literally Shalamon. For those of you that don't know, Arthas is literally Shalamon. He is inside Shalamon. When you're fighting Anduin, there's a phase of the fight where you fight the Fallen King, and the Fallen King literally has the Lich King's abilities.
What?
You know, so you're fighting Arthas inside the blade, trying to wrest control away from Arthas.
They literally like took the Lich King mechanics and they put them into Anander and Rain, hoping to like poke into some sort of melancholy or whatever. Fuck that.
Because, as it turns out, Arthas is the one that's controlling Anduin. Jaina, also, when she comes close to Anduin, she says that she senses a familiar
Her ex-boyfriend.
presence within Anduin. So she senses Arthas within him. Now, here's my problem with that specific storyline. Now Arthas is working for the jailer. Why would he do that? If his final words were, "Father, is it over?"
No.
And I see
You're retired, but you still have a job.
only darkness for me. Why would he now turn around and work for the fucking jailer? Makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Maybe Jailer's paying him more, but he's under NDA, so he can't really say.
How are you selling this? Why would he willingly work? Because previously, according to Blizzard at least, he was only working for the jailer because of the helm, right? Even though he didn't always wear the helm, he basically always wore the helm. Now he is in the blade and he's doing the dominating of Anduin, right? Which is sort of like, did the jailer dominate him too? So in other words, this is actually the jailer dominates the sword and then the sword dominates Anduin. Why don't you just dominate Anduin directly? What the what is going on? How many layers of the story is there? Like how many this is too much domination, right? It's just domination all the way down, which is really annoying because you don't need that. You didn't need to do that to our boy. You know, it's our boy. Look what they did to our boy. So yeah, I'm
Oh god.
I'm gonna be honest with all of you. I am angry. And I recognize that there's a lot of people that on Twitter, as well as I just had to literally hide a bunch of fucking assholes on the channel. Yesterday was a very busy day for me. I probably hit like 4, almost 5 people on the channel, who basically accused me of lying, saying I'm just going after the negative clicks, right? I just want the negative clicks. I don't know how
can it possibly be a lie? All of this is literally out there.
to be positive about this without lying. Like if I'm gonna sit here and be positive about the story of WoW, I'm gonna have to lie, right? I'm gonna have to sit here and I'm gonna have to lie out of my ass because I'm not positive about the story of WoW.
This is how I felt when I was debating whether or not I should quit WoW. I was still streaming, but like my views and my channel and everything were just going like, you know, it was like people were quitting the game, and I was just like, what am I supposed to do? You know, am I supposed to like, I don't know, try to keep up with the remaining good-spirited people and try to find something good about the game to get excited about again, or should I just find something else? So I left. And that was one of my most important leavings in my life, and I will never look back.
No, I don't think that Steve Denuser knows what the fuck he's doing. I think Steve Denuser has zero talent. I don't know how the guy got the fucking job. I'm still not entirely sure how he still has the job, right? Considering the fact that this dude is now responsible for taking this lore and pulling it in, like, how do you destroy something that good? Like, genuine question. All you had to do was continue writing the story of World of Warcraft. That was literally it, right? All he had to do was continue to write the story that Chris Metzen laid out for him. And the dude would have been a hero. People would have loved him. and he has managed to destroy everything. And I'm just sat here thinking to myself, you know who I feel very sorry for? I feel sorry for someone like Terran Gregory. I feel very sorry for Terran Gregory, because you look at that cinematic, right? The Savannah cinematic, and you say, wow, the art team did such a fucking good job with such a shit story.
It's just sad how the art team, whether or not they agree with what they're making, like they had to like sit down and create a freaking masterpiece, because they do create masterpieces. Like they had to like push through it and be like, well, I'm just gonna do my part of the job and hope for the best. It's like working on a group project at school and knowing that you have someone really shit at your group who basically wrote the whole concept of your project, but you're the guy putting the pictures in and doing the graphs and everything, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna make my graphs real pretty now, and the title is gonna be all nice, and the whole project is just gonna look nice, but our project's gonna be shit, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just kind of do what you're supposed to do and just be like, let's make this work, but it won't.
They were literally given such a crap script, right? And they still managed to pull it off. They still managed to make it look good. Can you imagine what someone like Terran could do with an actual good writer at the head of narrative development within Blizzard Entertainment? Like, can you imagine the cinematics that Terran Gregory could come up with?
They're gorgeous.
I asked Terran Gregory a couple of months ago on Twitter, publicly, by the way, so this is not something that was hidden. I just asked him a question. I asked Terran, is there any cinematics coming up that you think is going to be incredibly impactful, that's going to leave the audience with that wow factor, right? It's a couple of months ago. It's like 3-4 months ago. I asked Terran this, and Terran's answer was interesting to me. Now, I'm not saying that's what Terran meant. He's way too nice a guy to probably ever have meant this. But it's sort of like, it made me chuckle at the very least. He said, a cinematic can only ever be as good as its build up. So I don't know.
Oh,
right?
wow.
That was his answer.
Ouch.
To the cinematics. And it just sort of felt to me as if he was saying, bro, what the fuck do you want me to do? This is all I have, right? I'm doing the best I can with the fucking story that I'm given. But the fact that you guys aren't buying into the cinematics really is my fault, right? I just don't, I can only work with what I have. And he's not wrong, right? The reason so many of us bought into Old Soldier is because, this has been a long time coming. This was a very emotional connection that we have.
It's like out of my hands, dude. Like, I'm just doing what my software allows me to do.
To Sao Fang, and the fact that Zappy Boy was introduced alongside Sao Fang made Zappy Boy a very beloved character within that
That's
cinematic, and it just sort of took things forward, and it was sort of that moment of almost sort of passing the torch, if you will. The reason the cinematic where Sylvanas kills Sourfang again hit home was because of the journey that we've all been on with these characters. And then you look at the cinematic.
Like, BFA cinematics are undeniably one of the best cinematics, regardless of the story, regardless of anything. They've really made me feel things, like it's just so sad how, the art team was able to do it even with the crappy connections to the actually, just underwhelming story.
Cinematic of Shadowlands, and you sort of realize that these cinematics don't hit the same. The cinematic, for example, with Tyrande and Elune is just, it's incredibly bland and boring. I don't feel that emotional thing. I can see that they were trying to be deeply emotional. I didn't get that deep emotional feel from that cinematic. And now it's actually getting a little bit fucking worse, It's getting a little bit worse. Considering the fact that we've just found out that Elune is basically just a construct. right? So, how happy does that make you?
Happy? If it made me happy, I would have still been playing the damn game.